Hello and welcome to Lesson 3 of Resources and Energy Resource Management. This session is going to be looking at the national distribution of resources. So we're going to do a bit of a focus on the United Kingdom. So write today's title and learning objectives, and when you're ready, unpause the screen and we'll start with the content. So, to begin with, I actually thought I'd give you an overview of European resources because there's quite a good summary on this YouTube link. Now, this is found in the Jog Vlogs area of 365 in the Reefham High School Department area. So please find that link, or you want to type it in, feel free. But there are other resources that you need for today's lesson within there as well. So please do go and find those. So this video essentially identifies some of the different natural resources found within Europe, and it identifies a few that you'd find in the United Kingdom. So you've got an overview about the whole of Europe before we then focus in on our British Isles. So watch that video, and then when you're ready you can unpause the screen and move on. Okay, so now we're going to zero in on the United Kingdom, and we're going to really look at the resources that we have within our Isles. Just like a global level and a European level really, our natural resources are very unevenly spread around the landscape. So for example, gold is found quite a lot of, actually, just in small quantities, in sort of difficult to mine quantities anyway, in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland used to be a hotbed of volcanic activity, and because of that volcanic activity it's a place where there is a lot of gold potentially there to be harvested. Whereas we don't find gold in Norfolk, sadly, and it'd be really nice if, you've got a spade in your back garden and there's big nuggets of gold coming out of the land. But what we do have is very rich, fertile soil. So we are a place where we grow a lot of crops. There's a lot of natural farmland, floodplain land, full of really rich alluvium and minerals to help us grow crops, which maybe places like the north of Scotland don't have. So resources are spread because of various reasons and various historic, and we're going back millions of years really for the volcanic activity to be the case. But Norfolk is not a place where volcanic activity really is something we're that bothered about, or that has happened. So we're not going to be finding gold anytime soon unless we're looking in the lost property box of the London Underground. So the spread is uneven as before. Now what I'd like you to do, and this is very much the case of a lot of the notes from these sessions, is that mind maps for this topic really are a useful way to summarize information. So although we're using a lot of double pages, it's definitely something which is a way to present the data in a nice clear format, for the way that the data kind of presents itself in the lessons. So get your map of the United Kingdom, which you got from the Jog Vlogs folder of 365, or if you found one online, great, and then stick it into the middle of a double page, and then I'm going to provide you with information that I want you to annotate around that UK map. But you don't just find the information, I want you to locate it. So shade or pinpoint with a straight line, the different areas that I specifically refer to. Now it mentions using an atlas, but that really is only relevant if you're in the lesson. You've got Google or the internet in front of you to use to find these places. Okay, now just be wary if this place is also a location in the USA or something like that, then just make sure you are looking at the right one in the United Kingdom. But locate these resources on your map. Use a key, use colour, use symbols, I don't mind, but however you want to do it is fine. So the information around the map, and then locate that information using symbols or lines or colour coding on your map as well. Alright, so add a key so you know exactly what your symbols or colours mean as well, so it's really clear. So on the next slide, I'm going to provide you with all the information you're going to need to annotate around your UK map. So here it comes. Now there you go. Now I've colour coded this, and sorry if you're someone that struggles to define between those colours, hopefully you can see them. But there are several resources here. We've got coal, iron, oil and gas, woodland, farmland and water. And water's not a resource actually we have mentioned very much in this topic so far, although arguably it's the most valuable resource that we have. So what I'd like you to do is use these notes to go around your map, and then what you're looking out for in the notes is the underlined bits. So the underlined bits, other than the title obviously of coal and iron, they are locations, and those locations I would like you to find on your map. So using the internet, you should be able to find East Ayrshire in Scotland, because East Ayrshire is a place where there's quite a lot of coal. South Lanarkshire in Scotland, Northumberland in England, and Neath or Port Talbot in South Wales. Now they are all historic areas of coal mining. We don't actually have much in the way of coal mining in the UK anymore, and I would say normally we have none, because actually Kellingley Colliery in Yorkshire closed, and that was the last coal mine. But it's not. They've actually approved reopening another coal mine in the Lake District somewhere, or Lancashire, I think. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's the Lake District. So have a little look. And if you want to do a bit of extra research online, if you want to find the UK's current active coal mine, then please do. Then go to iron, and you can see it's the Weald in East Sussex, so you should be able to find that using Google. St Austell in Cornwall, the Brendan Hills in Exmoor. Again, all places where there's quite a lot of iron. I say quite a lot, a chunk of iron. Okay, we still mine quite a lot of iron and buy it in from other nations, but in the UK we do have iron deposits. Oil and gas is in the North Sea, so you might not be able to put something on land for that, but you should be able to work out roughly where the North Sea oil and gas fields are roughly located, and so on and so forth. So all the information please, and then look for those underlined areas to annotate your map, and use either color coding or a key with symbols so you can identify what resource is where. So that should take you a good chunk of time, probably about 20 to 25 minutes at least. Once you've completed that task, then you can unpause the screen and I will continue with the remainder of this lesson. Okay, so this is actually a bit of a recap to last lesson, where I gave you some exam skills right at the end of the session. We're looking at the difference between describe and explain questions. And when we were looking at global resources, it said something like describe the location of gold deposits around the world. And then it said explain the location of gold deposits around the world. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to give you less information this time because I gave you the answers there. Less information here. I want you to recap those exam skills, those vital exam skills. So I'd like you to use the map that you've just completed where you've focused on the water resources, and ideally then pair that with the map which I'm going to give you on the next slide, to provide a bit more focus to your answer. But you're building on the knowledge you've just acquired. So the idea is that this map that you've produced, okay, about water in the north and west, annual rainfall is high, blah blah blah, that should help you hopefully now locate some of these areas of water stress and serious water stress, so places that don't have as much water, using this map. Okay, so whereas we don't include Scotland on our particular statement here, and actually inconveniently because Scotland is the wettest part, this area or this map is about water stress. So that tells you that we know, Scotland, the north and west, is not going to have water stress. So that might tell you what water stress is. Again, I'll let you look it up, but I'm sure it's pretty straightforward. So the reason that we don't have the northwest on here is because it doesn't have water stress. So when you're looking at this map, I'd like you to use your skills from last lesson to describe the location of areas with serious water stress. No big deal, 2 marks. Okay, try and be fairly specific if you can. Then question 2 is like and explain question. Alright, but it says suggest. Now they're the same thing in terms of you have to give reasons, but explain tends to be the reasons you should know them. They're fairly definite, and there might be a wrong reason. Whereas suggest is you can basically offer a reason, and if it makes sense, if it's sensible, it doesn't have to be exactly right. If it's sensible, it's appropriate, they'll give you a mark. So firstly, where are the areas of water stress? Describe them. Give me a region. Give me specifics if you can. You should be able to. And why might those areas have specific water stress? Suggest reasons why those particular areas you've identified have water stress. Okay, great exam skills this. So I will put this back on so you've got a chance to write down the question and give yourself a little bit of space. And once you've given yourself a little bit of space, then you can answer this question. Okay, so this map is on 365 in the job logs folder, but if you don't have it, take a screenshot of here and then answer these questions. So hopefully you've had a go and described areas of water stress, or serious water stress I should say, and you've suggested a couple of reasons why. I'm going to give you a bit of help and advice now. So describe the locations. There you go. That's easily more than you'd need to write for the 2 marks. So areas of serious water stress are located mostly in the south and southeast of England. There's a mark. Hopefully you all got that region. And then you've got information on the table to the right. So look at that. It tells you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It tells you all those areas, what the names are. So the numbered areas, other than 6 and 9, are places under serious water stress. So unless you mentioned South Staffordshire and Tendrin 100, then everywhere else was perfectly valid as an answer. So there you go. Mid Kent, Three Valleys, Essex, Suffolk, South Staffordshire, blah, blah, blah. All those places are under serious water stress. Now, it says explain why. I actually said suggest reasons why these areas experience serious water stress, because then it gave you a bit more freedom to kind of explore reasons. But there are several potential reasons. Again, you wouldn't need to write all of this, all right, so don't panic. Firstly, there is less rainfall in the south and east. This is where I was hoping your knowledge of the map that we've just completed, where it specified that the north and west had lots of rainfall, and therefore that's where our water resources were mostly located, that the south and east had less rainfall. Now, you live in the UK, so because you live in the UK, it doesn't ever feel like we have difficulty with rainfall, but the south and east is absolutely the driest part of the UK. But not just that. That would mean there's less water available. That's a valid reason. Why would there be water stress? Because it rains less. That would be worth a mark. Tick for an exam. Also, there is a high population of people in those areas. That's the most populated part of the United Kingdom. London alone has over 10 million people. So, firstly, you'd get a mark for saying it rains less. And you could say possibly rains less. You wouldn't have to know. It's a good suggestion. High population. Again, we know that's true, but if you didn't know, you could suggest it, which means there's more demand for water. It might be that it's an expensive area of the UK when it comes to providing water. So maybe the water companies are trying to get away with less. Well, that's a pretty obscure one. But one that isn't even mentioned on this handout, which does help, because we're from Norfolk, is that we know that these parts of the world, but also included here, is Kent. Kent's down here, okay? Norfolk and Kent and places like Lincolnshire and Suffolk, we have quite a lot of things in common. And there's one thing in particular we have in common, and that's that we love driving tractors. And we drive tractors because we are farm areas. Now, farm areas, agricultural areas, use a lot of water for watering crops. So you can see we've got the reasons why. Okay, it's mentioned that there's high demand, high population, there might be raining less, but what it doesn't mention here, okay, it starts talking about we can transfer water, it's quite expensive to put in the UK as a whole, blah blah blah. But it doesn't say that in the southeast it's also a high area of agriculture, which is also another possible suggestion that you could put for your answer. So if you say it's something like it's a high area of farmland, it requires lots of irrigation to grow wheat crops, arable, pastoral, whatever, I don't mind, then as long as you've mentioned something about farming, that would also be a valid reason. Okay, this one about the cost to transfer water from the northwest to the southeast is expensive, so it might not happen. Again, that's a really obscure answer, but I've put it there because actually the exam board put that in one of their mark schemes once, so I don't want you to kind of rule it out completely. But the agriculture one's probably even better as an answer, but much more straightforward and simple to understand. So less rain, more people, costs a lot to transfer water, and agriculture, lots of irrigation. So there you go, lots of potential reasons why that part of the UK is under serious water stress. But actually, more importantly, it should be a concern for you because you live in East Anglia, so therefore it's something which we've got to think about going forward in this country. Now, if we were doing the topic of water resource management later on in this topic, then we would actually go into more depth about that. But we're not. We're focusing on energy resource management, okay? But more on that later. So this is effectively in class, it would be a whiteboard challenge, but you probably don't have a whiteboard at home. You might do, but even if you hold it up, I can't see it. So what I'd like to do, or like you to do, sorry, is look at the map and try and figure out what resource in the UK the map is referring to. Now you should be able to do this from your completed map of the UK. So if you've located well your oil and your iron and your gas and your farming, etc. areas on your map and your notes, then you should be able to look at this map, even though it's completely different, and work out which resource it's referring to. So what I mean by that, let's show you this one. Look, this one shows you that there's something going on in East Ayrshire, particularly. You know, what happens in East Ayrshire quite a lot, and South Lanarkshire and Northumberland. Okay, and look, Neath and Port Talbot, look at this area. Okay, now I can tell you that I know that I've listed on my map East Ayrshire, Northumberland, Neath and Port Talbot as massive areas for previous, anyway, coal production. So this one is referring to coal. So hopefully you can work it out. Now some of these weren't mentioned, all right. I didn't mention Bolton and Leicestershire and Wakefield. I just mentioned kind of the biggies, okay? So that the three biggest, or four biggest, I should say: East Ayrshire, South Lanarkshire, Northumberland, Neath, and Port Talbot. They were all mentioned on your map, and therefore you should have had information about all four of those. Okay, I ignored Leicestershire and places like that. So the next resource is going to be for another, next map is for another resource in the UK. You've got to try and figure out which one it is based on what the map shows you. Here we go. Okay, any ideas? Have a look at your map. It's clearly identifying high areas: Grampians, Northwest Highlands, Southern Uplands, Snowdonia. This one is water resources. Okay, so I've not put Ireland in there because it wasn't in the on the Google search, but this shows you the areas of most water resources. All right, next one. This one should be so easy because the key is on the screen. Okay, yeah, this is oil and gas. More tricky, this one. Okay, this one is farming, and what it shows you, actually, the key, which I've covered over, tells you the type of farming that goes on there. So in East Anglia and Lincolnshire, you've got largely arable farming, and then as you get further north or to the hilly areas, it's more hill farming, sheep farming, and then the sort of central regions, cattle farming. Right, next. Okay, that's iron mines. Now, one of them, or a few of them, you can see this one just off the coast of of North Norfolk there, which could be a bit confusing. But again, looking at your areas of like the South Downs, the Southwest here, you should be able to spot areas in common with your map. Although that one's quite a tricky one, to be honest. Okay, this one, the giveaway, I think, is this map, this point here. It's in East Anglia, but you know it's not farming because we've already had farming. Alright, this one is forestry. So these are the 10 largest forests in the British Isles. And you can see Thetford makes it in there. Now Thetford is not a natural forest, it's completely planted, human-made forest. But you've got Thetford, you've got the New Forest, and then other parts like the Galloway Forest Park and things like that. Okay, so that is a good summary of the UK's resources, natural resources, where they're located with specific information, and once again you've practiced some exam skills in describing and this time suggesting reasons for your answers. Okay, this was a bit of a short session than the first two. Next lesson we're going to be going on to more resources and energy resource management information, so bring your A game and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.